Hello, welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. In this video, things are going to get a little bit spooky. Don't turn off the lights because the ghosts are about. That's right, we're going to be looking at the Nighthaunt Battle Pack, all of the rules and all of the units for Nighthaunt armies, how they play, and also what the units do. In this in-depth review, we'll be looking through all of those things, as well as I'll be trying to just help you with any rules, clarities, or things that you might want to know. If you do have any thoughts or questions, please do leave them in the comments below. I am not going to be talking about points and stuff like that right now, even though obviously those are already out. Instead, I'll be making an additional video on these where I'll be rating the different units based on their points versus just what they do. Obviously, points are super important for context. We'll also do some tier videos and some other stuff. So this isn't the first video I'm going to make about the spooky boys and girls, I guess, and the Queen with her Gussie. So if you have enjoyed these videos, then obviously you can join our faction chats on the Honest Wargamer Patreon and just leave a bunch of comments and tell me what you think about the video. Right, let's go look at the army rules. The first thing we'll look at are the battle traits, which is the special army rules that apply to your army, and they're great if you're a Nighthaunt fan. You have two abilities which are not related to the charge phase. The first one is Ethereal, and this is really good. It's a passive, and you ignore all modifiers to save rolls, positive and negative, for friendly Nighthaunt units, excluding Nagash. This is amazing, because this means you're going to be able to ignore all of the rend that your army is going to bring, that the enemy army is going to bring. And then, obviously, in counterpoint, people are going to need to bring a lot of rend against armies that have really good armor saves, like Stormcastle, Slaves to Darkness. So they're in this difficult catch-22, and you just keep making those saves, which is nice. The next one is a command ability. You can tell because it's got that little one symbol there. Command points are a resource that you develop at the start of each battle round. Normally it's 4. There are a couple of other ways to get them. And they're used for command abilities that you can do through your turn. There are normally no other ways to get command abilities. And this one costs 1 command point, and you use it as a reaction to your opponent declaring an attack ability, which could be either a shooting ability or like a fighting ability. And so forth, and therefore, when a unit is targeted by attack ability, the unit has a 5-up ward save, which is the armor save, then a ward save, so it basically reduces the amount of damage that you get in. The next ability we're going to look at is called, it's great, but it is a command point, and command points are spenny. Like, you don't have many of them, so they're a very limited resource. So spenny, by the way, is an English term for expensive. I apologize. I went some colloquialisms there. The next ability is Wave of Terror, which is done in your charge phase and can be done once per turn across the army. Friendly Nighthaunt units, and that would be all of them, that are in combat, so any that are in combat, can use charge abilities this phase. However, if a unit that is in combat uses a charge ability and the charge roll is 3 or less, that unit does not count as having charge that turn. Okay, so the reason this is a big deal is because the way it normally works is you move around the board and then you can never get within 3 inches of an enemy unit. The only way that that happens is if you use a charge ability, which is where you roll 2d6, and if you can get within half an inch of an enemy unit, you're in combat. Being within 3 inches of an enemy unit is considered to be combat. Why this is really good is it means multiple different Nighthaunt units that are in combat can elect to roll 2d6, and if they roll over 3, and then they are able to complete a charge, which is get into another within half an inch of another unit, they can just bop around the board and be in different places which you weren't really expecting them to be. So it's effectively a 2d6 potential move for all of your units that start in combat, which is crazy good. And it means it's going to be really difficult to pin them down, which makes sense. You can't pin down ghosts. I try to hoover them up. That's the best plan. Okay, so then that's a really great ability. The other 3 abilities apply in the charge phase to specific units and can only be used for 1 unit. So I'll explain that as we go. So the first one is Shriek. It's done in your charge phase and can only be done once per turn for the army. You pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit, so a singular one, that has not used an Aura of Dread. These 3 abilities are all Auras of Dread. Then pick an enemy unit within an inch to be the target. The number of models in the friendly Nighthaunt unit must be greater than the number of models in the target. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for the target's attacks for the rest of the turn. So obviously there's a stipulation you need to have charged, but we've already got an ability to do some fun charging around the board. And you need to outnumber the enemy unit. But minus 1 to hit is pretty good, especially against certain units in the game because they are hitting on 4s a lot of the time. The next one is Stun. Again, charge phase. A unit that can't use an Aura of Dread. So what that's basically saying is you can't get the same singular unit to use all 3 of these abilities at the same time. You have to have a different unit each time. That unit needs to be unit needs to have charged, and it needs to have the War Machine or cavalry keyword. Those keywords, as you can see where it says keywords Aura of Dread, keywords are located at the bottom of a war scroll for a unit. Then if that unit charges, subtract 1 from save rolls for the target for the rest of the turn. That's obviously massively impactful because that's going to stack with things like Rend. So -1 to their save, and you've got Rend. That means Rend of 1. That means they're basically going to be doing Rend 2 against enemy. That's great, especially for an army that then ignores Rend. And lastly, Petrify. Again, you need to have charge, and it can't be a unit that's used the other 2 Aura of Dread abilities. And it needs to be done with a hero. If that hero charges that turn, you pick an enemy unit within an inch, and that unit has Strike Last for the rest of the turn. That's amazing. Strike Last is easily one of the strongest abilities in Age of Sigmar 4. The reason for that is that when you make an enemy unit Strike Last, that means all of your units can fight before you. There are 3 stages of fighting in Age of Sigmar, or at least combat. You have the Strike First step, the Median step, and then you have Strike Last. And what happens is the active player, so if I'm the active player, I'll be the active player, and I'll get to choose the first unit that strikes first. You'll get to choose another unit that can fight in the Strike First step, and then we go down to the Median step, and me as the active player gets to choose again. So even if your unit has Strike Last and it's your turn, you can charge in with your hero, give them Strike Last, and still strike before them. So it's an incredibly strong ability. Also, multiple other units can hit that unit because they hit it before it strikes first. Before it strikes last, sorry. So great. So a great set of combos for an army that's predominantly a combat army. It engages in the phase it wants the most. Very difficult to pin down, and very, very good defensively because it ignores Rend. Next up, we're going to do battle formations. When you write your army list, you are going to write down one of these battle formations. It's going to give you some additional rules for your army. There are 4 to choose from. Vanishing Phantasms gives you the ability Ethereal Translocation, which is done in your movement phase. You pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit that is not in combat to use this ability, and remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. This is only available in your movement phase, and in addition, with how powerful and effective manifestations are for zoning the board, this is really not super effective. Hunters of the Accursed is done at the end of any turn, and it's done across once per army. You pick up to 3 enemy heroes, each within 12 inches of a different friendly Nighthaunt hero, to be the targets. You roll D3 on 2+, you inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. So 3d3 mortal damage potentially to heroes if your heroes are close enough. I don't think that's good enough for me. I don't want my heroes to be too close to your heroes in case your heroes are better than my hero. What I'm saying is yeah, my dad might beat up your dad, but what if your dad's stronger than my dad? And therefore, that's a bad ability, in my opinion. The next one, Deathstalkers, grants you the passive, There Is No Escape. Friendly Nighthaunt units can use charge abilities even if they used a run or retreat ability in the same turn. In addition, no more damage is inflicted on friendly Nighthaunt units by retreat abilities. This has got like triplicate buffs. Number 1, this is all Nighthaunt units can use charge abilities even if they use run and retreat abilities. Using a run ability means that you can redeploy, which is a command ability that you can do, which has got the run keyword, and also countercharge. So double stipulation, like it's got no stipulation, it's got a double bonus because it's usable in 2 turns. It applies to all units, which is great. And then in addition, it has a subsidiary ability where you can do retreat, which is basically ignoring the fact that you can also charge in the charge phase if you're already locked in combat. And if you do retreat for some reason, that means your opponent is, you're not going to take mortal damage. It's got like 3 to 4 bonuses in there for all units in your army. So it probably will be the most chosen one consistently. The next one, Procession of Death, grants you the passive Cavalcade of Death, where friendly Nighthaunt infantry units have a 5-up ward save while they're holding them 6 inches of friendly black coach. This could end up being pretty good if you're already building a very defensive bubble of units and then you build around a black coach. If black coach is cheap enough or effective enough, being able to give yourself a 5-up ward save is very nice because it's going to add to one of the strengths of this army, which is the ability to survive thanks to ignoring Rend. So really you've got 2 choices. Deathstalkers to be even more mobile, or Procession of Death to be even more defensive. Probably mobility is always the strongest stat you can have in the game. You can have something that does 1,000,000 damage but moves 1 inch. It's going to really struggle to be effective in the game. But Procession of Death is also really cool as well. So yeah, fun. On your army list, one of your heroes is going to be able to be given a heroic trait. It does not have to be your general. It can be any of the heroes that you've chosen in your army list. And you get one for your army list. You have to write it down before you go to an event or before you play a game. There are 3 to choose from. I'll read through the other 2 because they're not worth reading because the other one is so good. First one, Cloaked in Shadow, is a passive where the effect is you only hit this unit on a 4 or better. The next one, Terrifying Entity, is a passive where this unit can use an Aura of Dread ability. Those are those charge abilities that you get when you charge in, if they've already used one this turn. But those are redundant because the other one, the Ruler of the Spectral Hosts, is once per battle in your movement phase for a command point. You can pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit that started the battle with 3 or more models that has been destroyed to be the target. Set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit rounding up. Older than 12 inches this unit and more than 9 inches from enemy units. So this is what we would call recursion, or bringing units back from the dead. Other armies need things like faction terrain pieces like Gloomspike Gits, or even really large models like Great Unclean One or Lord of Change to be able to bring models back from the dead. Some of those also only work by rolling a dice. Like a Slan, you have to roll a dice to be able to bring a unit back from the dead. This is a guarantee. So you can spend a command point. Sure, it's resource heavy because you are spending those very limited command points, but it is not something that could happen. It's something that will happen as long as you have a command point, which is really strong. So that's the one you're always going to take because it basically means you've got more models in your army and therefore is the best one. So that's the best one. It's so much better. It's like S to S. That's an S and the other's like a G as what they are as traits. It's once per battle. It's still an S. Also on your army list, you are going to need to denote, I apologize, one unit or one hero, sorry, to have an artifact of power. There's 3 to choose from. The first, and in my opinion the best, is once per battle in any combat phase, you can use the Light Shard of the Harvest Moon. If this unit is in combat, you can add 1 to the attack's characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Nighthaunt units holding 12 inches unit for the rest of the turn. A great thing to combo with this is the fact that when a hero charges in, you can use the Wave of Terror to make the unit that they're fighting strike last, therefore being able to give that bonus +1 attacks out to other units around you. This is what we call an economies of scale ability as well, because it affects multiple units and therefore is adding lots of additional attacks. Let's say you've got 2 units of 20, whatever, with it holding than 12 inches next to this hero, that means you're going to be adding 40 attacks to your army in that singular phase. So it scales up and becomes more effective over time. Well, not over time, in a singular instance, the more utility you can add to different units. The next ability is Covetous Familiar, which is you use as a reaction to your opponent declaring a fight ability for a unit in combat with this unit. You roll a D3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on that unit equal to the roll. Unless my hero is built to be a fighty hero, I don't want you in combat with my hero, so I'm not going to pick that. And the next one is done at the end of any turn. It's called the Soulfire Ring. If any enemy models were slain by this unit's combat attacks this turn, you heal D6. It's pretty good if you could build like a really strong fighty, monster, like, I don't know, like a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon. But the Nighthaunt roster doesn't really have a unit like that. It does have some fighty foot characters, like Lord Executioner as an example, like that could do a lot of fighting. And maybe you could combo this with the command trait that we saw earlier, or the heroic trait, sorry, that we saw earlier, where you only hit it on 4. So only hit on 4s, do D6s, etc., etc. But with crit mortals out there, that's going to be able to rifle through a low wound character pretty easy. And ultimately, you're all about doing a load of damage. So Light Shard of the Harvest Moon of the Harvest Moon is the one for me. The next thing on your army list you need to do is choose a spell lore, but you only have access to 1 spell lore, so you're choosing the lore of the underworlds. You have 3 spells. All of the wizards in your army can attempt to cast one of them per turn or per hero phase, but the spell Shade Mist is an unlimited spell, so each one of your wizards can attempt to cast it. And Shade Mist is a great spell for your army. It's cast on 6, which is nice low value. And you pick a friendly Nighthaunt wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible friendly Nighthaunt unit that's 3 or more models and is wholly within 12 inches to be the target. You subtract 1 from the wound rolls for attacks that target that unit until the start of next turn. This is a great unlimited spell because if you have a lot of wizards in your army, you can put a lot of -1 to wound on your units. Obviously, if they've got 3 or more models. That's great. That's just a great debuff, especially as we know we can charge in with a Wave of Terror, make them -1 to hit. So a single unit of 10 or 20 models can be -1 to hit, -1 to wound, and charge, and your opponent can't really do much to stop it, with the exception of try to dispel or unbind this spell. So that's a great unlimited spell. The next spell is Spirit Terrain. It's cast on a 7, so it's average to cast. Pick a friendly Nighthaunt wizard, and they pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches. You roll a number of dice equal to the models in the unit, and for each successful 5-up, you'll inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. We call this a horde clearing spell. It's really good. They're great to do. If you've got a lot of wounds in an enemy unit, you've got to get through. Getting through a lot of bodies or a lot of single wound models on the board is actually quite tough in Age of Sigmar 4 because of no battle shock, so that's pretty nice. And then finally, Spectral Lure, cast on a 6, which is a great spell. Pick a Nighthaunt wizard to cast it, and then pick a friendly Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 inches to be the target. If you successfully cast it, you return a number of slain models to the target unit with a combined health characteristic of up to D6. This is nice if you're choosing a single wound model unit. So for instance, as an example, if you just choose a unit of chain rasps, if that unit of 20 is down to a single 1, you can heal D6. You can in addition use a command ability called Rally for an additional D6, and both of those two things can be done in your opponent's turn. You could cast Spectral Lure in your opponent's turn, and you can also cast Spectral Lure in your opponent's turn. You can also do Rally again in your opponent's turn. So you could return 4 D6 models to a unit. You could also return some slightly larger models like Hex Wraiths, because D6, you're likely to be able to ping the 3 that you need to bring back one of those models. Not all the time, but some of the time, which I think is good. Final thing I should just quickly mention again is about timings. I should have pointed out the Shade Mist is -1 to wound rolls until the start of your next turn. Some of these abilities are only until the end of that turn, but until the start of your next turn is even more powerful and effective, because it means that it's going to last for persistent turns. If your opponent gets a double turn, they're going to be hitting your army at consistently -1 to wound, which is really going to reduce how much damage they do. So you've got a great spell lore here, loads of good options. Also, on your army list, you are going to choose a manifestation lore. There are generic manifestation laws, and I've made videos reviewing those. But for Nighthaunt, you also have access to your own unique manifestation lore, which other armies can't use, called the Chthonic Sorceries. And there are 3 different manifestations known as endless spells. These are spells that you cast with your wizards to summon units onto the board. There are 3 to choose from, and you can put all 3 of them on the board, which is fun. And each one is cast on a 6. Only one of them, the Sheesh Reaper, I think has a movement value, and you set it up within 9 inches of the caster and more than 9 inches from enemy units. The Mortalis Terminexus is wholly within 12 inches of the caster and visible to them, and the Vault of Souls is also wholly within 12 inches of the caster and visible to them. If you're not sure exactly how manifestations work, please go watch my video about how manifestations work. That'll be more helpful than me deep diving it here. But let's go look at what these actual manifestations do. The first of the manifestations we're going to look at is the Sheesh Reaper. Now, this is a mobile manifestation, meaning it can zone and screen, and you've got to start 9 inches away from your opponent's units. When you set up a manifestation, it cannot move. So even though it's got a move value of 8, it cannot move on the turn in which you set it up. It's got 7 health and a 4-up save, which is legitimately very survivable for a unit that if you do kill it or banish it, you're going to be able to resummon. So that's great. It's got a combat attack called the Almighty Reap, which gets more attacks on a turn in which it charges. The passive Soul Reaper adds 2 to the attacks characteristic of the Almighty Reap if it charged in the same turn, which would take it to 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, which is better than like ogres and a bunch of other stuff in the game. Wounding on 2s, which is the same as a Bloodthirster. Rend 2, which is the same as a Bloodthirster. And then damage 4. Very strong, as they would say, very strong. That is a lot of damage, a lot of combat potential out of something that you can keep resummoning all of the time. Okay, so the next manifestation is the Vault of Souls, or as we like to call it, the Boo in the Box. The Vault of Souls has got 6 health and 4-up save, and 6-up ward save, so fairly survivable for a unit that's free. Important to talk about. It's got an ability called Siphon Souls, which is a passive. Each time a model, friend or enemy, is slain within 12 inches of this manifestation, give this manifestation a soul point to a maximum of 6. Then, at the end of any turn, which does mean the end of every turn, you can use the Soul Eruption. And if this manifestation has 6 soul points, so 6 models need to have died, friend or enemy, pick any number of enemy units, so not friendly. So this is actually like an upgrade compared to something, let's say, like the Maelstrom that you can get in the Morbid Conjuration lore. And within 6 of this unit to be the targets, you roll a dice for each target, and on a 3+, you inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. Then reset this manifestation soul points to 0. This is pretty wild. If you built like a couple of units, if you're building like not a castle, but you know, you had a couple of frontline units, you set this thing wholly within 12 inches of the caster. So you just plop it down, get into a fight, some stuff dies, and you'd be like, oh, by the way, D6 mortal damage. That's pretty nice. It's got a good range, 6 inches. That's good. Could hit multiple different units, and it's free. You're going to kill stuff anyway. Either you're killing stuff and doing mortal damage, or they're killing your stuff and you're doing mortal damage. It's a win-win. It's really, really good. Really good. The next manifestation is the Mortalis Terminexus. It's got 6 health, 4 up save, 6 up ward save, so it's fairly survivable. This is more of a utility piece that's not as effective as the other two. What happens is, in your hero phase, once you've cast it, you're able to use the Keeper of Mortality ability. You pick a visible friendly Nighthaunt unit within 3 inches of manifestation to be the target. On a 2+, you pick one of the following effects. You can either add 1 to run rolls and charge rolls for the target for the rest of the turn, or you can heal 3 to the target. Now, +1 to run and charge rolls, if you're taking the run and charge subfaction, means that that's +1 to run and +1 to charge for an effective +2. Heal 3 is nice. Like, it just is. I know it's really short range, 3 inches, so maybe you'll move away from it or whatever. It doesn't have a movement value, so it's not going to move. But maybe you'll put it on an objective. Maybe you'll just want to keep healing as many wounds back into a hero that's being targeted by shooting or something as possible to keep them alive, because they're the wizard that's just dropping your manifestations out or supporting the rest of your army. Heal 3 is good. Like, it's just nice. Sure, you could do rally, but you're spending a lot of command points in this army. You're spending command points to maybe bring a unit backwards per battle. Maybe you're spending command points doing a 5-up ward save. Maybe you're using command points for counter charge. So there's a lot of stuff that you're spending command points for in this army. So not needing to spend it on rally to heal up a hero, and this is free, is super nice. Another good point being raised in the chat by Crit Viewer is that you obviously, the +1 to charge is also really nice if you end up with a teleport. Give a unit +1 to charge, teleport them 9 away, but now they have an 8-inch charge roll, which is much more likely to go off. That's a cool ability too. The first war scroll we're going to look at is Nagash. Nagash is an incredible piece, but obviously very expensive, and will be the core of your army if you do end up taking him. 18 health with a 3-up save. He's also got a 5-up ward save, you can see at the bottom here, and is a wizard 9, meaning you can cast 9 spells. That's absolutely outrageous. That's 3 slans. That is almost 4. That's 4 Lords of Change and an additional bit as well. 4.5 Lords of Change. Just crazy, the sheer volume of spells they can cast. At time of recording, you're able to cast multiple manifestations by the same wizard. Therefore, what you're going to be able to do is put all 4 endless spells or manifestations from a spell lore, or sorry, I'm assuming you're picking Morbid Conjuration, but you might pick the ones from this. So you put all 3 down, bang. And then you're also able to do all of the other things that a level 3 can do. So you can cast 3 manifestations, the 3 spells from your spell lore, and you still have 3 casts left as well. Okay? That's how much utility you get before you talk about anything else that this unit can do. But he's also got an ability, or his own unique spell, sorry, called the Invocation of Nagash, which is cast on a 7. You pick a visible unit wholly within 18 inches. If the target is an enemy unit, you inflict D3 mortal damage. If the target is a friendly death unit, you can pick one of the following effects. The target has a 5-up ward save until the start of next turn, or return a number of same models to the target unit with a combined health characteristic of up to 3. So we could combine that with a spell that we talked about earlier, where we can return D6 plus 3. Or we can pick a unit and just give it a 5-up ward save. You can't do both. You can't pick the same target more than once. But it does mean you can just be like, do you know what? That unit is going to have 5-up ward save and -1 to wound. That one is pretty interesting. So incredibly effective. I'm not going to spend too much time on Nagash because I feel like Nagash is its own thing, separate to being Nighthaunt sort of situation. Okay, in addition to that, he also adds +2 to his casting rolls this unit. And while it has not missed casting spells this turn, if this unit miscasts a spell, ignore the restriction that would stop this unit from casting any more spells as well. So super powerful. Super powerful. So it's going to cast all 9 spells. It's going to cast many of them with +2 to cast, which again is more powerful than almost all wizards in the game. Just so good. It's insane. In addition, it's got this ability once per battle in your hero phase called Supreme Lord of the Undead, where you pick a friendly pick a friendly non-hero, non-unique death unit that has been destroyed, set up a replacement unit identical to the target wholly within 12 inches. So this does mean if you take Nagash, you take another character with the trait that we talked about earlier to return a unit at half strength, you're going to be able to return 1 unit at full strength. So let's say 10 Hex Wraiths can come back as 10 Hex Wraiths, and then another unit of 10 Hex Wraiths can come back as 5 Hex Wraiths. You can't replace replacement units. So all of those are replacement units. So you won't be able to like recycle them. So that is, again, however much 10 Hex Wraiths or 20 Blade Guys or whatever unit you want to pick is, effectively knock that off the points value of Nagash. In addition, once per turn, at the end of any turn, you pick, you've got Hand of Dust. So this is the end of every turn. Pick a visible enemy hero or monster in combat to be the target. Basically on a 4-up, there's a hand thing, but based on a 4-up, you just auto-slay that character, that hero or that monster, which is pretty effective. If you throw in Nagash into, I don't know, 2, let's pick 2 Lords of Change, or throw him into combat with 2, I don't know, pick something, 2 monsters, you know, you're going to definitely be able to wipe one of those out over a battle round, you know, which is crazy. That's a lot of points you could just take off the board on a 4-up effectively, and can keep doing it. Your opponent can't stop you. You just have to be in combat. And then we have combat. I forgot the fact that this unit does combat. 4 attacks that do damage D6 and 4 attacks doing damage D3, all at Rend 2. And so that's Nagash. I would say that even if he was 1,000 points, he would be undercosted. Incredibly impactful in the game. Arguably one of the best war scrolls in Age of Sigmar. And so, yeah, you could run them in your Nighthaunt army if you would like. Our next character is Lady Olynder. Now, she's the faction leader of Nighthaunt, the Mortarch of Grief. She's got 7 health, 4-up save, and a 4-up ward save. So very, very survivable. She's a unique character, so you're only going to be able to have one of her in your list. She's also a War Master, so will be the general, unless you have another War Master in which you choose between the two. She's also a level 2 wizard, which is great. Level 2 is really, really effective. It means you could choose one of the spell law spells that you want, or you could put 2 manifestations down. Any of those 2 things, really, really effective. She's also got the fly keyword, as almost all Nighthaunt units do as well, which is great. Okay, she's survivable. Like I said, 7 health, 4-up save, 4-up ward save. Nice. She's got an okay combat profile with 4 attacks damage D3 and 6 attacks damage 1. They've all got critical auto wound, which is any 6s to hit are going to do automatically wound. Most of the Nighthaunt faction have critical auto wounds, so I won't explain it again. But that's pretty nice. It's very, very effective, because even though you might not hit very well, it means that you don't have to roll the next step. It means it shuts down enemy armies that are doing things like minuses to wound, because it's not going to be anywhere near as effective because you're crit auto wounding. It makes units like even the lowly clan rat pretty scary. So crit auto wound is really nice. But she's not really there as a like a damage dealer, although she's got a 1 shooting attack, which you can do at 12 inches, which does D6 damage at Rend 3, which is pretty nice. And it's 2s and 2s. So you're definitely going to be able to like do this like pokey little damage. The main reason that you would bring her is for her passive, well, her abilities. The first one, passive, Mortarch of Grief, subtract 3 from the control scores of enemy units while they're within 12 inches unit. That's quite a broad area for her to be able to utilize. She's also got a once per battle ability called No Rest for the Wicked, where you pick any number of friendly Nighthaunt units on the battlefield. For each target, you can return a number of slain models to that unit with a combined health characteristic of D3 plus 3. That's great, because you get to a point in the game where lots of units are struggling. D3 plus 3, cast a spell for another D6, do some rallies. You can really have a really fleshed out, well, ghosted out army again. And then she's got her own unique spell called Grief Stricken. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. Ignore positive modifiers to hit rolls, wound rolls, and save rolls for the target for the rest of the turn. That's really nice, because you can shut down any buffs your opponent maybe has put onto that unit. In addition, as we know, because no positive modifiers for your save rolls, we've also got a way on the charge to reduce the save roll for our opponent's army. So that means that they won't be able to all-out defense, which is basically -1. Rend 1 makes it -2. And then the ability to reduce their save makes it -3. So if you've got like Rend 2, you could be up to kind of pseudo Rend 4 in your army. That's very good for a combat army that wants to punch through high armor. So that's really nice. So she's great. She's got a bunch of different utility that she brings to the board, but she's also a level 2 caster, which is really impactful. But the real question is that enough for you to want to bring her in the list? Our next unit is Kurnos Valentin, the Craven King. 6 health, 4-up ward save, and a 6-up ward save. Fairly survivable. It's fine. His main job, and the reason that you're bringing him in a list, is because of his ability, if I cannot rule, none shall rule, which is a reaction that you make to your opponent declaring a command ability for a unit within 12 inches of this unit. What happens is you roll a dice on a 3-up. Unless your opponent spends an additional command point, then the command has no effect. It still counts as having been used, and the command points spent to use the command are still lost. So that's the reason you're bringing this guy, is you're bringing him to shut down enemy command abilities. You do have to be fairly close, which is 12 inches, and your opponent needs to, and you still need to roll a 3-up to make it happen. Incidentally, Kurdos also has a combat profile: 4 attacks damage 3, 6 attacks damage 1, which are not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but you're not bringing Kurdos as a damage dealer because you have other units that are damage dealers. Instead, you're bringing them specifically for this ability to shut down command abilities, which might be really important. There might be some armies that you face or some units that you face where shutting down those command abilities are the key to victory, and therefore Kurdos will make it into the list. The next unit we look at is Alrak the Drowner. 7 health and a 4-up save. Is also unique, so you can only take one of them, and has got a damage profile, which is pretty decent. It hits you with his ore, 4 attacks, 4s and 3s, rend 2 damage, D3 with crit auto wound. But that's not the reason that you're bringing Alrak the Drowner. Like many of these units, you're bringing them for the utility that they serve to your army. And the utility he serves is great. He has this ability that you do in your movement phase called Passage Through the Underworlds. If this unit is not in combat, you pick a friendly, non-hero Nighthaunt unit that is not in combat and is wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Remove this unit and that target from the battlefield, and then set them up again on the battlefield wholly within 6 inches of each other and more than 7 inches from all enemy units. I think it's also worth noting that Alrak is also a war machine. Therefore, when he charges in, he's going to be able to use the Wave of Terror that is available to war machines as well. It's also a hero as well. So you're going to be able to charge in and use a different Wave of Terror, not the same one at the same time. And that is going to be Strike Last, which feels really nice. In addition, that 7-inch charge on a reroll is very, very likely to happen for the unit that you teleport. Therefore, your opponent has got to screen out even more aggressively. And then in a world where manifestations are stopping you from being able to deep strike or move around, it gives you a little bit more option as well. So overall, a fantastic utility unit in your army. The next unit we're going to look at is another unique hero. Therefore, you can only take one of them. Ragnar the Grim Hailer. Love this model. 7 health, 4-up save, and a 6-up ward save. He's survivable because that armor save is unrendable, which is great. Move 12 inches, so very fast, which is good because when this guy charges in, he's actually pretty good in a fight. 5 attacks, 3s, rend 2, but damage 2, and he's got +1 charge damage on the charge. So 5 attacks, damage 3 is not anything to laugh at. Also got crit auto wounds as well. Is a hero, so when he charges in, can make a unit strike last. That's an important thing to talk about. Is also a level 1 wizard. So now we've got a fighty hero similar to like Kurdos, but is also a wizard for utility and support. He's got his own unique spell cast on a 7 called Wraithstorm, where you pick a visible enemy unit within 12 and you inflict D3 mortal damage on the target. And if any models were slain by this ability, inflict an additional D3 mortal damage on the target as well. So that's pretty good for mortal damage output, in my opinion, especially if you then also cast, I don't know, like the boo box, the manifestation next to it. So you start racking up the ability to do more mortal damage. That's really fun. To add to his casting potential, he has an ability you can do in any hero phase called Corpse Candles. Pick either this unit or a visible enemy unit within 12 inches, and you allocate 1 damage point to the target. If you picked an enemy unit, you add 1 to the casting rolls for this unit for the rest of the turn. If you pick this unit, for the rest of the turn, you add 1 to the casting rolls for this unit, and you add 1 to this unit's power level. That means you get to cast 2 spells, and you get +1 to cast, making him a very, very effective caster. Very effective. And then a great utility piece. And then in addition, if you want to improve his combat, you add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made with a Fell Reaper weapon if the target is a priest or a wizard. So he can be very, very fast. Don't forget, you can make these units run and charge, which is really quick. Fly keyword. They can go in and kill those little wizards at the back of the board. So Ragnar the Grim Hailer seems really good to me and probably very worth taking. Next unit we look at is a Scriptor Mortis. 6 health, 4-up save, and obviously because it's unrendable, fairly survivable. Now, he's got a really cool ability. You're not taking him for his combat attacks. You're taking him for his ability, Sentenced to Eternal Torment, which is done in your hero phase once per turn across the army, so you can't take multiples of these guys. Okay, you pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. You roll a dice on a 3+, the target has been sentenced. And then once per turn at the end of your turn, not the end of any turn, but your turn, roll a dice for each sentenced enemy unit on the battlefield. On a 4+, you inflict an amount of mortal damage equal to the current battle round number on that sentence unit. So, you know, hero phase 1, I sentence unit. Hero phase 2, I sentence unit. And then the best I'm doing on a 4+ is I'm doing 2 mortal damage to 2 different units. That is not very good. As it gets later into the game and multiple sentence units, you know, maybe battle round, 4, like I'm 4 units on a 4+ might take 4 mortal damage. It's very fun, but not very actually effective. The next hero is a Tomb Banshee with 5 health and a 4+ save. She's got a pretty interesting set of utility abilities that she uses in conjunction with your army. In combat, it's got 3 attacks that do damage D3 and a shooting profile, which is pretty interesting, which is D3 shots that do D3 damage at Ren 2. That ties in with her ability, the Ghostly Howl, which you can use once per turn across the army, so it isn't going to work across multiple units. And then in any shooting phase, you can pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this turn by the piercing scream. Roll a dice on 2+. The target cannot use commands until the start of your next turn. This is done in any shooting phase. That means you could use the ability to shoot in your opponent's turn and therefore apply damage. And then you can shut down their ability to do things like counter charge, as an example, or even like reroll charges if you do it in the right combination. There's a bunch of stuff you could do for shutting down your opponent's ability to move around. And lastly, she's got an ability called Cacophony of Sorrow, which is a passive. While there are any friendly Mimron Banshee units older than 12 inches of this unit, ignore positive modifiers to control scores of enemy units within 12 inches of this unit. Now, if affecting the control scores of units is super effective in Age of Sigmar, then this is going to be of more value. But if just killing enemy units is really effective, then probably this is of less value. Our next unit is the Knight of Shrouds. He's a melee character that supports infantry units with 5 health, a 4+ save. He's got 5 attacks in close combat that is damage 2. And to add to his survivability, he's got a passive called Stolen Hours, where each time this unit uses a fight ability, after that fight ability has been resolved, you can heal the number, you can heal X this unit, where X is the number of damage points allocated to enemy units by the fight ability this guy used. So you can keep up at that 5 health value constantly and just keep fighting in combat. But 5 attacks damage 2 isn't super impressive, to be honest. But he does have another ability called Infantry Overseer, where you pick a fight ability for this unit, pick a friendly non-hero Nighthaunt infantry unit that has not used a fight ability. You can effectively fight immediately after this guy has 4, and then when you do so, you add 1 to hit rolls for those targets' attacks. You can just elect not to bring this guy and just spend 1 command point to give that unit +1 to hit, which probably is a more effective use of your time and mental acuity. The Knight of Shrouds on Ethereal Steed is very similar to the version on foot, only more survivable. 7 health and a 4+ save. It's got the same attack profile on his sword, and his horse has got an attack as well. And it's got that same ability to heal a number of damage versus how much, like a number of health compared to how much damage that they have done. And obviously with a higher health pool of 7, more likely to be able to constantly heal itself back. It's also got a similar ability to fight, make a cavalry unit, a Nighthaunt cavalry unit fight immediately after it, or a war machine unit to fight immediately after it, and then give that unit +1 to hit, which is obviously nice. Just like the last unit, if getting that +1 to hit is really, really important to you as a unit. Also, it might be a good delivery system for charging in and making a unit strike last, and then also maybe being a caddy for carrying around that trait or artifact, which is going to give +1 attacks to all the units around it, so that they're all getting +1 to hit, or one unit's getting +1 to hit, they're all getting plus attacks. The unit you're hitting is strike last, so it's a big combination effect, because this guy's a hero who's charging in and can use the Wave of Terror ability. The next hero is a Cairn Wraith, 5 health, 4+ save, 6 attacks, damage 2 in close combat. But the reason you're bringing a Cairn Wraith along is because of their passive Eager Death Dealers. While this unit is in combat, you can add 1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Grimghast Reapers that are wholly within 12 inches. Combo this with a once per battle ability for +2 attacks on some Grimghast Reapers. Feels like a lot of extra attacks on a massive infantry block. Next hero is Krulghast Cruciator, and the reason that you're bringing the Krulghast Cruciator with 6 health and a 4+ save is because of the passive Empowered Through Excruciation. I definitely said that wrong. You ignore the first damage point that would be allocated to each friendly Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit in each phase. This is obviously really nice if you're against an army like, I know, Seraphon, who are going to do active damage across all phases. You know, ignore some damage in the hero phase, ignore some damage in the shooting phase, ignore some damage in the charge phase. And obviously, the more units that you stack around this guy, the more effective you're going to be able to, the more effectively you're going to be able to reduce the number of damage coming in. Is the points cost for this guy equal to just bringing another unit? We'll have to work that out like later. But, you know, that's a nice kind of idea for ignoring chip damage, especially on some of your heroes. The Lord Executioner's got 5 health, 4 up save, and a 5 up ward save. Pretty good. Moves 8 inches, and it's got a cool weapon, 5 attacks, damage 2, Rend 2 as well, Rend 3 against heroes. But the big reason you're going to bring this guy, and I think you may well see this guy a lot, is Staring Death in the Face ability, which is done once per turn in any combat phase. What you do is you pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. You roll dice on a 2+, you subtract 1 from the attack characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. In addition, if the target is a hero, you subtract 5 from their control score. So now we've got charging in strike last. We can make units -1 to be hit, -1 to be wounded. And therefore, we can now make this unit have less attacks as well. The sheer number of debuffs that we can apply to, especially a big, strong enemy unit, and then make it so they're far less effective is very high. And then you're going to be able to make them strike last and then slap them with all your attacks. Pretty cool. The next unit is the Spirit Torment with 5 health on a 4 up save, moves 8 inches, got the incredible and exciting attack profile of 5 attacks damage 2 with crit auto wound, and it's got a 6 up ward save. The reason you're going to bring the Spirit Torment is because of the captured soul energy. Each time a friendly Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 inches this unit uses rally command, you make 3 additional rally rolls of d6. Now we already know with spellcasting we can bring a lot of models back. Adding additional rally rolls as well means we could bring big multi-wound models back, which is good. Or just bring lots of infantry back, which is good as well. So if the Spirit Torment is cheap enough, I could see that maybe being something you're going to want to do if you're planning on doing lots of rallying. Let's just also mention the fact that the Spirit Torment can just stand right next to Nagash. And when Nagash wants to rally, because you are going to want to heal up your big man, 18 health, then you'll roll an additional 3 dice. So you can just, you know, get a ton of health back on that guy just because this guy's nearby. So you're just making them more survivable, which is fun. The next hero is the Guardian of Souls. Guardian of Souls is a power level 1 wizard with 5 health and a 4 up save. So a level 1 wizard, good. Wizards are always an excellent utility. But realistically, the reason you're going to bring the Guardian of Souls is thanks to the Nightmare Lantern passive, where while this unit is in combat, you add 1 to the wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Nighthaunt units while they're wholly within 12 inches. Now, that's pretty nice. Now, yeah, sure, you've got to have this unit be in combat, but when it charges, it makes unit strike last because it's a hero, which is good. So therefore, you can then give the unit that you've charged in with +1 to wound, which feels really nice. It's actually multiple Nighthaunt units wholly within 12 inches, so you could actually give a lot of your attacks much more combat punch, which feels really nice. Some of the other abilities where they give you +1 to hit are something you can replicate with command abilities like all-out attack, but you cannot replicate the +1 to wound aura. Therefore, maybe this will see more play. The first unit we're going to look at are the Pyregeists. Pyregeists are a Warcry warband of 8 models. That means that they can't be reinforced, although you can use them in your Nighthaunt army, so you can't have a unit of 8 be a unit of 16. Each one of those models has got 1 health with a 4 up unrendable save and move 8 inches. The reason you're probably going to bring this unit is because of its shooting potential, and I know that feels really at odds with what we've been talking about with all of the combat potential of a Nighthaunt army. Each model has got 2 shots each, hitting on 4s, wound on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, but it's got crit auto wound and shoot into combat, which is honestly pretty spicy. 16 shots at 10-inch range. Don't forget, they have move 8 as well. So that's a pretty good effective range. And then they've got 2 attacks in combat, so it's going to be 16 attacks for the unit, an extra 1 for the champion. 4s and 4s, again with crit auto wound. So you're looking for this unit at, like, just in a single phase on your turn, potentially 32 dice rolls that you're going to make, 16 from shooting, 17 from combat, so that's 33 or whatever. And then they've got an ability called Light of Pyre at the end of any turn. If this unit is contesting an objective, pick a visible enemy unit within 6, then roll d3, and on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. Add a number of equal to the roll this unit's control score for the rest of the turn. So you can add 1 for their control score. So they're going to be 8 for the control score, could be going up to 11. The next unit we're going to talk about are Grimgas Reapers. Grimgas Reapers are a unit of 10 models. Each model in that unit has got 1 health for a potential of 20 health across that unit if you reinforce them, because they could be reinforced. 4 up, unrendable save, move 8 inches, run and charge, all those other things. Really, really nice. And they have got 2 attacks per model. So 20 attacks, or 21 attacks with the champion across a unit of 10. 41 attacks across a unit of 20 is pretty nice. Don't forget, we already got a character that can add +1 to those attacks, and once per battle, we can add an additional +1 attacks. So we could potentially be up to 81 attacks, which is really nice. 4s and 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with anti-infantry +1 rend. So they can be rend 2, which I love. They've got a passive called Reap Like Corn, where this unit's combat attacks score critical hits on an unmodified hit rolls of 5. So now we could potentially, in the very best combo, have 81 attacks on crit 5s. But more realistically, you're probably just going to end up with 41 attacks with crit auto wounds. Sorry, not crit mortals. Crit auto wound on 5s, which is a lot of dice to throw at an enemy army, which I think is great. So these feel really nice. There's a lot of health in the unit. They've got a good save that's unrendable. They're fast. I don't see why you wouldn't take these. The next unit we'll look at is Chain Gas. Chain Gas are a unit of 2 models, and each model has got 3 health with a 4-up save. They have got neither a good shooting attack nor a good combat attack. And the reason that you bring them is because of their ability, another link in the chain that you do in your combat phase. You roll dice and you add 1 to the roll if this unit is wholly within 12 inches of any friendly spirit torments. On a 3+, for the rest of the turn, you add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Nighthaunt units wholly within 12 inches. So you've got to bring a spirit torment, you've got to roll a dice, and then you give +1 to units wholly within 12 inches. It's probably a no from me, Bob, but let me know what you think about these units. The next unit of infantry combat units is Chain Rasps. Chain Rasps is a unit of 10 models. Each model of the unit has got 1 health with a 5-up save. And then they move 8 inches, and then their weapon profile is 2 attacks, 4s and 5s with no rend, damage 1, that do critical auto wound. And on a turn in which they charge, you can add 1 to the wound rolls for this unit, which is pretty good. They're probably going to end up on the much cheaper side. So 2 unit, like a reinforced unit of 20 is going to be, cheaper than maybe one of the other better melee units that's reinforced. But their 5-up save, which is unrendable, isn't as good as a 4-up save that's unrendable. So I think you should probably just spend your points, in my opinion, on units that are more effective for their points value with a better save. You've got lots of healing in the army. You can bring lots of models back, 2 units, or bring whole units back. So I don't think you need these. Maybe if you could take these in units of 20, they'd be more interesting to me personally. Our next unit is Bladegeist Revenants. Bladegeist Revenants are a unit of 10 models. Each model has 1 health with a 4-up save, move 8 inches, obviously run and charge and all those other things that we can already talk about. They've got 2 attacks each, but they have a passive called Threshing Desperation, where if this unit charges this turn, you can add 1 to the attacks characteristic of their melee weapons. This means even a unit of 10 on the charge is going to have 31 attacks. 3s and 3s, rend 1, with crit auto wound and damage 1. It's a lot of attacks. Reinforced unit of 20 is 61 attacks on the charge. Obviously, you're like, oh, Rob, they can't be charging all the time. We already know that they can be charging all the time. Oh, they don't have a champion. Only 60 attacks. I apologize. Okay. And they are going to be able to charge all the time because of the ability we talked about earlier. So you're going to be able to charge all the time. You're going to be able to run and charge all the time. You aren't going to be able to pin them down. So they effectively always have 3 attacks, which is really nice, apart from maybe the turn you charge them. They're really survivable. You can bring loads of models back. You can return the models back from the dead. It's just tons of attacks that are very fast on a tough to deal with unit. I wouldn't be surprised if these are very, very popular. The next unit of melee infantry, unit of 10 models, each model in the unit with 1 health and a 4-up save that moves 8 inches, run and charge, blah, 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 blah. This unit has got 3 attacks per model, hits on a 4, wounds on a 4, rend 1, damage 1, that's got crit auto wound. Why would you take this over the other units? Well, it's got a couple of abilities. First up, Harrowing Strike is a passive where if this unit charges turn, subtract 1 from the wound rolls for attacks made by enemy units while they're in combat with its target. An important note is they don't need to target this unit. Therefore, you can charge in a unit of Harrowdins to make it so that even if your opponent is trying to attack a different unit, they're -1 to wound. We've already found other minuses to wound as well. That's super effective. Minuses to hit are available for this army. Strike lasts. You're really shutting down your opponent's ability to work well. They also got another passive, Murderous Bloodlust, where you add one to hit rolls and wound rolls for this unit's combat attacks while it is in the combat with any damaged enemy units, or while it's in combat with an enemy unit that had any model slain in the same turn. So that does mean that you could have, for a reinforced unit of 20, 60 attacks, 3s and 3s, with crit auto wound, rend 1, damage 1. That's fast, that's mobile, that's aggressive, that's good. They're very effective. The next unit are Hexwraiths. Hexwraiths are a unit of 5 models that you can reinforce to a unit of 10. Each model in the unit has got 3 health with a 4-up save, and they move 12 inches, which is very fast, especially with run and charge. They are very, very, very fast. On the charge, you get extra damage with their Spectral Scythe, meaning they've got 2 attacks per model, 4s and 4s, rend 1, and damage 2 on the charge, otherwise it's damage 1. But thankfully, because you're playing Nighthaunt, you're almost always going to be able to charge additionally and gain that +1 damage, which is a very different thing to other units. And then the horse has got 3 attacks, which all have got crit auto wounds, but no rend on those. They've also got an ability called Spectral Hunters, where if this unit charges this phase, pick an enemy unit within an inch, roll D3 on 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage onto them. Now, let's talk about why this unit might be very, very good. Reinforced unit of 10 is going to be 30 health with an unrendable 4-up save. They have a 6-up ward save base, but you have access to making them have a 5-up ward save. You can cast a spell on them so that -1 to wound them. On a turn in which they charge in, they can make it so that you're -1 to hit them. So -1 to hit, -1 to wound on a unit with an unrendable save, and a great ward save is very effective. You can't pin them in, which is tough because they're going to be able to charge out of it. And they've got a control value of 2 per model. So a unit of 10 is going to be 20 for holding an objective, meaning they can even go toe-to-toe for Mega Gargants, which is pretty nice. Overall, they feel very effective, mainly because of 2 things. 1, the ability to be very, very fast and always be able to charge feels like the key to this unit because speed is so important, doing battle tactics and grabbing objectives. Very nice. The next unit is Spirit Hosts, one of arguably the worst models to build in all of Age of Sigmar. Spirit Hosts are a unit of 3 models, and each model in that unit has got 3 health. You can reinforce them, so 9 health or 18 health on a 4-up unrendable save. They move 8 inches as well, and they've got 6 attacks per base for 18 attacks with crit auto wound, otherwise it's 4s and 4s, no rend, damage 1. They've got a passive called Drawn to War, where friendly Nighthaunt infantry heroes have 4-up ward save where they're holding this unit's combat range. This is really nice. So all of those heroes we talked about earlier, if you did want to put them in combat to give yourself pluses to wound or pluses to hit or any of those other things, you're going to be able to throw these guys in as well and make it so that 4-up ward save is much more survivable. Shooting isn't as scary with these guys around with a 4-up ward save. They are just a force multiplier for your heroes, and your heroes are a force multiplier for your army. Banshees are a unit of 4 models, and each model in that unit has got 2 health with a 4-up save. So you can have 8 health across the unit unless you reinforce it, in which case they're going to be 16 health. In combat, the Chill Daggers have got 2 attacks apiece. They hit on 4s, win on 3s, rend 2, damage D3. So that means you've got potentially 8 attacks from a unit of 4 and 16 attacks from a unit of 8. And that is a lot of D3 damage that you can do from this unit. The ability that they have, Spell Eaters, is a reaction to your opponent declaring a spell ability. If a friendly Nighthaunt unit holding within 12 inches unit was picked to be the target of that spell, this unit can use the Unbind ability as if it had Wizard level 1 and add 1 to the Unbinding roll for that ability. The spell is unbound and then inflict D3 mortal damage on the caster. Super nice. Anti-magic built into the list. Massive damage profile. Very, like, I would say fragile. But I would say, 16 health on a 4-up unrendable saves, pretty nice. You can bring load of models back with Rally and all the other abilities. The spell that you've got loads of ways to bring these back. I love these. I think these are great. The next unit is Glaive Wraith Stalkers. And Glaive Wraith Stalkers is a unit of 4 models. Each one's got 1 health with a 4-up save. They move 8 inches. During deployment, they have got an ability called the Point of Death, where you pick an enemy unit to be the target. That target has the stalked keyword for the rest of the battle. And then, as a reaction to declaring a charge ability for a unit and a stalked enemy unit is within 12 inches of it, what you can do is you can add +2 inches to your charge roll, but you must end up within a combat range of the stalked unit. So then when you get into combat, each model in this unit, so it's 4 models, 2 attacks each for 8 attacks, hit on 4s, wound on 3s, rend 1, but damage 2 on the charge, and they've also obviously got crit auto wounds. I feel like it's just more effective just to have a bigger unit But if you would like to have a really fun time, you know, like build a bit of narrative into your list, have Alrak the Drowner be able to teleport this unit next to the stalked prey, then you're only 7 inches away. Use the Hourglass manifestation to be able to give them +1 charge. Now they've got +3 to charge. You're only 7 away. You're more likely to get that stalked unit and have a real good time with it. The next unit is an infantry shooting unit, and it's the Craven Throne Guard, or the Crossbows, as they're affectionately known. The Crossbows are 5 models, and each model has got 1 health with a 4-up save. The reason you're bringing this unit is because of its shooting profile, which is 16-inch range, which means move 8, shoot 16, pretty good range. There's 2 attacks per model, so a unit of 5 is going to be 10 shots, hitting on 4s, wound on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, and obviously crit auto wound, with a reinforced unit doing 20 shots, which is quite a lot of shots. In addition, they've got an ability called Spectral Bolts, which is a passive, where this unit can pick enemy units to be the targets of his shooting attacks, even if they are not visible to this unit. In addition, ignore negative modifiers to hit rolls for this unit's shooting attacks. So that's good, especially with all the minuses to hit that are available out there. So they're going to be able to consistently put those attacks in. With crit auto wound, they could really start to threaten your opponent. And they're probably very cheap, so you can put quite a few of them on the board. I quite like these. I think these are nice, either incidentally spattered amongst your army to, you know, shoot for some screens, put some damage on some stuff, rend 1's fine, or, you know, and they're fast as well, so they can keep out of dodge, good enough range, so can't get locked up, but they don't have shoot into combat. Yeah, they aren't bad. The next unit we'll look at are Dreadblade Harrows, and they're absolutely excellent for scoring points and winning you games. Dreadblade Harrows are 2 models, and each model of the unit's got 3 health on a 4-up save, which is really nice. In combat, each model's got 4 attacks, damage 2. So that's 8 attacks, damage 2, which is a legit profile. And they've got 2 passives. One is the Curse of Loyalty, where if this unit is charged this turn, add 3 to the control score for any Nighthaunt units where they're holier than 12 inches. Now, that's not bad, but that's not the main reason you're taking them. You're taking them because in any movement phase, which is every movement phase, remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. This means that they're going to be able to pop around the board and do yourself battle tactics, grab objectives, constantly be in places your opponent wasn't expecting them to be, because they're going to be done in your opponent's turn as well as your turn. And the way it works is your opponent will do all of their movement phase abilities, and then you'll do these. So you'll be able to see exactly where they've moved to, and then you'll be able to pop in a position to either in the next turn do some moving, or maybe even get a counter charge available to you, a bunch of different stuff. So very effective for scoring points. And ultimately, scoring points is how you win games of Age of Sigmar. You can also teleport out of combat. I should point that out as well. The fact that you can have multiple units of Dreadblade Harrows, so you can just be like 2 units popping around, which is super nice. You could deny other people's battle tactics potentially. Loads of things. The Black Coach is our last unit we're looking at, and this unit is super cool. It's got 12 health with a 4-up save, 6-up ward save, control value of 5, so great for popping around on objectives. Quite fast, movement 10 on a really massive base. So you can either take up a lot of the board if that's what you're looking to do, or zone a lot of the board if you're looking to do that with it as well. I wouldn't necessarily describe it as a combat monster. It's got an interesting shooting attack that's got a 10-inch range, 2 shots, but a damage 2 with crit auto wounds. And then it's got just a variety of other attacks, which are all crit auto wounds. One lot is 5 attacks, damage 2, and the rest is 14 other additional attacks, damage 1. So that is a lot of attacks with crit auto wounds, but most of them haven't got any rend. So why are you bringing this? I think the main reason you're going to bring this before you talk about anything else is the Invocation of Death, which you do at the end of any turn. If this unit destroyed any enemy units this turn, so this unit needs to have destroyed it, pick a friendly non-unique Nighthaunt hero that has been destroyed. Set up a replacement unit holier than 12 inches this unit. The replacement unit can only be set up in combat with enemy units that are in combat with this unit. So I think that's quite interesting. This unit needs to have destroyed something, but you are going to be able to bring back heroes. So now we've got bringing back units, we've got bringing back heroes. Those heroes could be more survivable because they're near Spirit Hosts with a 4-up ward save. So we could make it so that our whole army is very survivable and is resurrecting a lot. That makes a lot of sense for ghosts, to be honest. His combat profile, though, or the coach's combat profile, I wouldn't describe as super fantastic. So that might be more difficult to do than it seems.
They've got an ability in any charge phase called Runaway Coach, where if this unit charges turn, you roll a d3 on a 2+, you do that many mortal damage. Then it's got another ability called the Nimbus of Power, which you do in your movement phase, where if this unit is not in combat, you move from the battlefield, set up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Don't forget, if you are taking the battle formation with a black coach, so infantry units around them have a 5-up ward save, then this thing is an auto-include in that particular battle formation. But otherwise, you're trying to bring units back. And I feel like there's definitely a build around black coaches and some infantry units, especially because they are going to be difficult to deal with. If you just take the little hero we talked about earlier, where you can do rally with +3 dice, then any damage you do on the black coach is going to potentially be rallied back. So it's going to be very, very difficult to deal with. So I quite like the black coach. I think it's at least very interesting in this list. And that is the whole review for the Nighthaunt Battle Pack. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this army, what you think about their playstyle. Have you already got games in with this army, and what stood out to you? Are you excited about the rules? Have you faced against them and they're tough to deal with? Please let me know what you think. For me, some of the key elements here seem to be the Dreadblade Harrows doing some teleporting feels really nice. The fact that they can't be locked in combat and they're constantly charging. It feels like some of the artifacts and traits are auto-include. Like the run and charge battle formation feels like that makes so much sense because it's all of the Nighthaunt units. So why wouldn't you take it? Bring in a unit back from the dead once per battle feels like an auto-include. They feel very linear in what things you're going to take. Other than that, the infantry units, I think you've got some good arguments for, like, do you want to take Reapers? Do you want to take Harridans? Do you want to take the Banshee, not the Banshees, the other ones, whichever they are, like those 3 infantry blocks? I think Chain Rasps don't feel great, unfortunately. I think the Black Coach is interesting, not strong. There's some fun, unique units, like being able to like condemn units or stalk units. I think that's really fun as well. I think that's interesting. I quite like the Pyregeists. I think you could take quite a lot of Pyregeists and do something quite interesting there as well. I think there's an infantry build that is definitely all cavalry builds as well. Hexwraiths feel like they're very pushed and feel very strong with that control value too. But ultimately, it's the speed of the army, which comes from the battle formation, run and charge, which I feel is going to make this, and then the ability to charge when you're locked in combat, that is going to really excel this army. And then lastly, the strongest point maybe of all is this army is unrendable. You cannot affect their save. So they're a nice counterpoint for the armies that have very effective armor saves, and so you're bringing a lot of rend. Therefore, though, the obvious answer is just do as much mortal damage as possible. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the video. Hope you've liked it. Thank you to everyone on the Honest Wargamer Twitch and everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon. If you like what I do, the very best thing to do is to get onto Patreon and support me. If on the lowest tier, you'll jump into a Discord, and we've got a very active, very healthy Discord community talking about all of the different armies and all of the different things. I would like to think it's really supportive and helpful for new players, but even experienced players. Hopefully you can find something of value there. Thanks for watching my videos, and I'll see you soon.